For those of you that would like to participate in the Pledge of Allegiance, please rise. The flag is behind me. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. I'd like to welcome you all to the 2023 deliberative session for the Governor Wentworth Regional School District. My name's Randy Walker, and I have the pleasure and privilege of serving as your moderator today. For those of you that are unfamiliar with the people at the head table, let me introduce them to you. And when I call your name, if you'd raise your hand, and this is not in any particular order, but way down on your far right is our Assistant Superintendent, Heather Cummings. The Chairman of the School Board is Jack Widmer. We have Wendy Fenderson, Member at Large from New Durham. We have Brody DeShays from Wolfeboro. Stephanie King from New Durham, Tom Bickford, Member at Large, Dr. James Manning from Brookfield, James Pittman, who's the Vice Chair of the School Board from Effingham. We have Charlene Seibel from Wolfeboro, Dana Streeter from Ossipee. We have Michelle Capone, who's the School District Clerk. We have our new Superintendent, Carolyn Arakelian. We have our School District Attorney, Barbara Lohman. Kathy Oblinas, who's the Business Administrator. We have Kelly Tiven from Middleton. And then we have my niece right here, Caitlin Murphy, who I've appointed as the Assistant Moderator for 3 years in a row. She lives here in Wolfeboro, an attorney and a former teacher. Before we delve into any substantive issues, I would like to dispense with some preliminary matters. There may be a few people in the audience today who are not registered voters. And although we are more than happy to have you observe democracy in action today, I would like to remind you that you are just guests of the district and that you may not vote. And if you do, it is a criminal offense that constitutes a misdemeanor, and I'm therefore confident that we will have your utmost cooperation. Just out of curiosity, how many of you are not registered voters? Did you raise your hand? So we have just a few. So the purpose of today's meeting is in part to explain, discuss, and debate the articles that we legally can, but ultimately the purpose is simply to determine the form of the articles that we will vote on in March. So we're not going to vote on the substance of any articles today. We'll do that on March 14th in your respective voting areas. Again, we're here just to determine the form of the articles. There's 9 articles that will be voted on this year. Article 1, which regards the election of school board members and officers, won't be discussed today, as you'll simply vote for those candidates that you desire on Election Day. We do have one contested race for the one-year member-at-large position. Christopher Bacher, are you here? You raise your hand. He's right there in the back. And Mary Schillerith is running against him, and Mary is right here. So those two are both running for the one-year position. All the other races are uncontested. Dr. James Manning is running for Brookfield. For Wolfeboro, Charlene Seibel's running again. Tom Bickford is running for the 3-year member-at-large position, and Caitlin Murphy is running uncontested for the moderator position. I wish all the candidates the best of luck, and thank you for offering to serve. So the 8 articles that we will discuss can be found at the back of the annual report. That's that orange book that you have on pages 39 through 41. There's extra copies in the back for anybody that did not get one. The main budget, which is Article 4, can be found on pages 36 through 39 if you'd like to follow along. And anybody that desires to amend a particular article or make a substantive motion, I always appreciate it if you would keep it simple and straightforward so it's easy to follow. I also don't permit amendments to amendments on the floor at the same time. We do operate under the auspices of SB 2. Which has 3 procedural twists. Number 1, that you cannot kill an article by passing over or tabling it. 2, the default budget amount is set by law, and that cannot be amended. And then 3, warrant articles whose wording is prescribed by law, that wording cannot be changed. And no warrant article can be amended to eliminate the subject matter. You can change the dollar amount, you can change the intent, the impact, but you cannot delete the subject matter. Let me also establish just a few other procedural ground rules which are the same that we've had in the past. Number 1, that I do not follow nor adhere to any specific set of parliamentary rules. Number two, I generally will recognize the person that submitted a particular article to speak first to that article. The 6 articles that were presented by the school board, Articles 2 through 7, so I'll recognize a member from the school board to address that article first. Articles 8 and 9 was submitted by petition, and I'll recognize one of the petitioners to address that article first before opening it up for discussion for everybody else. If an article is not amended, then it will appear on the ballot as is. If it is amended, then the amended version will appear on the ballot. For those of you that would like to speak, we have a microphone right here. Appreciate if you'd go to the microphone, state your name, what town you're from, and then tell us what you'd like to say. This should be a fairly short meeting because we won't vote substantially on anything today. Again, you do that in your own respective towns. I will also read each and every article before we discuss it. We are being broadcast on the television as well as the radio, so when you do speak, you want to be clear and, again, make sure you use the microphone. Articles do not need to be moved or seconded to start discussion. I'll simply read them, and we'll just jump right in. And after a reasonable period of time has elapsed regarding the discussion of a particular article, I would entertain a motion to terminate debate or call the question, which I treat as synonymous. But I always waver on the side of letting people speak. We only do this once a year, and it's a cold day. It's nice of you all to come out. And actually, I'm just going to jump sideways for a minute. I'm mindful of back in 2000-ish maybe, I was at graduation, and the valedictorian, Libby Barton, said one of the things that she learned living in Wolfeboro for her adult life, or her up to adult life, was to dress in layers. And today's a good day for that, to dress in layers. In any event, I always waver on the side of people speaking rather than prematurely or precipitously cutting off debate. For those of you that have cell phones, this would be a great time to take them out and just make sure they're off so they do not go on during the meeting. Anything that happens today will require a simple majority vote to either pass or fail. We don't have any supermajorities. And you're also all aware that a motion can be made prior to a motion to adjourn, and I therefore encourage you all to stay until a motion to adjourn actually passes. If you have to leave and you want to make sure that an article or a motion is not revisited, you can make a motion to restrict reconsideration. If that should pass, we will not revisit that issue today. And finally, we'll only discuss the subject matter of those things that appeared in the warrant. If there was no notice of a particular subject, we won't be discussing it today because that would be unfair to those people that did not come. And those are basically the same rules that we've had in the past that have worked well for us and that we'll use today. So just as a reminder, March 14th is Election Day, the day that you'll vote on all these articles. If you look at page 39 of your annual report, it has the time in your respective towns when the polls are open. For Wolfeboro, it's 8 to 7. Again, each town has slightly different times. And then finally, it's been a tradition since 1989 that the chairman of the school board deliver a State of the School report. I therefore recognize Chairman Jack Widmer to deliver the report. Jack?
Well, good morning. I am Jack Widmer, Chair of the Governor Wentworth Regional School Board. I welcome you here today, and thank you for joining us for our annual deliberative session. I also want to extend a warm welcome to our new superintendent, Dr. Caroline Arakelian, who is here participating in her inaugural deliberative session. Welcome, Caroline. It's been a pleasure so far. As the morning goes on, we will review the state of our schools, the rationale for each article on the warrant, and the district's proposed budget for fiscal year 2024. At this time, I'd like to begin with the state of the schools, sharing some highlights from the past year. Kingswood Regional High School. I will begin by shining the spotlight on Kingswood Regional High School. Along with my fellow board members and attendees of the December board meeting, we were treated to a powerful student presentation about the life and death of Kingswood alum and journalist James Foley. The students did a very impressive job sharing this impactful story, and I hope that you will have a chance to see the James Foley exhibit or even participate in the James Foley 5K Freedom Run next fall. Other highlights shown here include engaging class activities such as world language students wrapping up a unit about Columbia by creating traditional Columbian refreshments to bring a bit of culture into the classroom. The high school also hosted a 4-footed reading buddy, participated in their annual Student Council Thanksgiving basket collection, and ran an activity fair to share the many ways that students can be involved outside of the classroom. There is something for everyone at Kingswood Regional High School, where a sense of community and belonging is paramount to all that they do. As many of you know, the Lakes Region Technology Center, LRTC, is a community partner which hosts programs for the Lakes Region. Along with Kingswood Regional High School, LRTC sending school partners include Prospect Mountain High School, Moultonboro Academy, and Farmington High School. The schools work collaboratively to offer services that benefit our students with learning opportunities and the community with a true commitment to service. Our teachers, staff, and students honor their commitment to LRTC through the qualities they learn and exhibit in their work. These qualities include leadership, responsibility, trust, and collaboration. As a result of their efforts, LRTC is able to build a bridge from academics through skills for each of our students' career, technical education, and post-secondary pathways. Your continued support for the center is appreciated, and we welcome you to visit the LRTC Center anytime. At Kingswood Regional Middle School, there continues to be enriching exploratory programming to immerse students in experiences that inspire new interests and broaden skills. This programming includes STEM-based projects in technology, strong arts, and music programming to encourage self-expression, creativity, and to build confidence. KRMS also offers diverse interscholastic athletic options, including volleyball, pictured on the slide, that help to foster important work ethic, perseverance, preparation, commitment, and interpersonal skills. Community service projects are an important part of the culture at the middle school, which includes the organization and delivery of 25 Thanksgiving turkey baskets to families in need. These kinds of projects help students to develop a sense of social awareness and learn patience and empathy while getting to see firsthand how they can have a positive impact on their community. Looking forward, there are continued efforts to strengthen the KRMS advisory program. Advisory offers the students structure to meet adolescents' developmental needs because it is one of the places where it is true focus of the notion of the whole child. Advisory seeks to ensure that every child has a meaningful relationship with an adult and a sense of belonging among their community of peers. Moving on to the elementary schools. Carpenter Elementary School staff and students have been busy continuing to learn, develop, and celebrate. Carpenter has talented and dedicated educators who provide engaging learning experiences for the children in their classrooms daily. Whether the emphasis is on STEM-related lessons, literacy enrichment, wellness, or creativity, Carpenter is a vibrant learning community. Some of the past year's highlights include the traditional winter concert and music class, which had a great turnout. Two other highly anticipated events include the Halloween parade that families and shop owners line the streets for, and the generous donation delivery for the food pantry. Additionally, the Carpenter PTO supported Carpenter students at the Festival of Trees and also provided holiday shopping so the students could choose a small gift for a family member. Winter sports are fully underway for first graders who are enjoying ice skating, while second and third graders will be enjoying So Much Fun, outdoor activities on the grounds of Brewster School next month. It has been a fantastic year of learning and working together at Crescent Lake School. CLS One Wheeled Wonders unicycle team continues to inspire students to persevere and work hard to achieve their goals. The One-Wheeled Wonders performed for students at Carpenter School, halftime shows at the KRHS basketball games, and the Wolfeboro 4th of July and Christmas parades. Other highlights over the past year include the Otter Chorus and Band returning to the Arts Center for a fantastic holiday show this year. Students across the school learn to work collaboratively, whether in science experiments, solving DARE math problems, or researching for history projects. At Crescent Lake School, students work hard as an Otter family and learn to be ready, respectful, and resilient for whatever learning opportunities they encounter. Fall Festival at Crescent Lake School provides time for leadership for our sixth grade team leaders as they guide their cross-grade level groups through challenges. Additionally, much like the middle and high school, the Crescent Lake Otter Student Council collected over 1,300 items for their annual Thanksgiving food drive. One of the things that the Crescent Lake community are most proud of is the Crescent Lake Otterbots robotics team for winning first place in the regional competition in 2022 and representing Crescent Lake School at the state competition. Effingham Elementary School continues to thrive, and the learning environment knows no bounds. Featured on the slides you see here, the kindergarten class has participated in the play-based learning programs out of UNH, while the 4th and 5th graders continue their work with Green Mountain Conservation Group for the 13th year. Effingham Elementary School returned to King Pine for skiing and boarding for all students in grades 1 to 6 this year. And this year, they held the second annual Pumpkin Path on the Effingham Elementary School walking path. Effingham Elementary continues to hold Monday all-school meetings to support the responsive classroom approach implemented school-wide. In each and every environment, Effingham students and staff are learning together, striving to bring their best selves and be safe, kind, responsible, and ready to learn. New Durham celebrates a sense of a return to normal. New Durham Elementary School hosted their biggest camp invention yet in the summer of 2022, and the summer school program was equally well attended. This past fall brought a return to Friday assemblies, referred to in New Durham as Celebrating the Wildcat Way. New Durham showered their community helpers with gratitude at their annual Thanksgiving dinner, followed a few weeks later with a holiday concert including band, chorus, 4th grade recorders, and the musical Elvis Saves Christmas. An impressive 130 students took the stage overall. I will add that the school board was given a sneak preview of the concert at our November meeting, and it sure was a highlight of the evening. All of these much-anticipated traditions were a big hit with the New Durham school community. Other welcomed events included winter sports and winter fun, robotics, puzzle and game club, chess club, and yearbook club. There is no shortage of things for students to be involved in beyond the classroom. Ossipee Central School continues to offer support and enrichment through the Schools Out Club. The Wildcat Watchers is a new club that highlights the happenings at Ossipee Central School with their student journalists. Students are happy to return to field trips, and featured here are some of the 2nd graders visiting the fire station for Fire Prevention Week, and the 5th graders who enjoyed collecting water samples for water testing with Green Mountain Conservation on their environmental field trip. Ossipee Central School has had a successful start to their winter sports program, which can be seen by the smiling faces of the 4th graders. Kindergarten students proudly displayed their noodle necklaces to showcase their phonics knowledge of the letter N. And new to the Ossipee Central School this year is the Spirit Squad, which is a group of enthusiastic 6th grade students. The Spirit Squad engages all students in their monthly Wildcat Pride assemblies with their school mascot, Ozzy, reminding all students of the Ossipee Central School core values to be safe, respectful, and responsible. In Tuftonboro School, during the snow-free months of the school, the students' arrival area at Tuftonboro Central School boasts the Owl Pride. Students are welcomed each day with a large sign and individual TCS Owl lawn sign with each student's name on them. This serves as a reminder that all are an important part of one large TCS community. Tuftonboro was pleased to be host to all-school Thanksgiving dinner celebration in November, complete with table and wall decor created by different grade levels, along with kindergarten holiday turkey song presentation. Students also enjoyed taking part of their first ever winter concert held at the Kingswood Art Center and participating in the winter sports program. A highlight of the year was a return of the sixth grade students to take part in their annual fall sixth grade overnight trip to Camp Mira Vista. Before closing my remarks, I would just like to extend my deepest gratitude on behalf of the entire board to our faculty, staff, and administration for your compassion, dedication, and tireless efforts on behalf of our school district community, especially over the past few years. A special thanks you also goes to the families and community members for your continued support. It is because of your support that we remain an outstanding school district that we are known to be. The students entrusted to us will always be at the forefront of our decisions and our aspirations as a school board. That concludes my state of the school, and I'll now turn it back to our moderator, Randy Walker. Thank you.
Thank you, Jack. So let's get to the substantive issues that we're here for today. If you turn to page 39 on your annual report, we will start with Article 2, which I will read. To see if the Governor Wentworth Regional School District will vote to approve the cost items included in the collective bargaining agreement reached between the Governor Wentworth Regional School Board and the Governor Wentworth Education Association, which calls for the following increases in salaries and benefits at the current staffing levels. For the fiscal year 2024, the estimated increase is $752,025. For the fiscal year 2025, it's $1,021,601. For the fiscal year 2026, it's $1,047,371. And further, to raise and appropriate the sum of $752,025 for the 2023-2024 fiscal year, such sums representing additional costs attributable to the increase in salaries and benefits required by the new agreement over those that would be paid at current staffing levels. The school board recommends this appropriation. In order for it to pass in March, it will require a majority vote. And I understand Wendy Fenderson is going to start us off. So, Wendy?
Good morning, everyone. Over the past 2 years, it has been a particularly trying time for everyone. Our faculty has been doing an incredible job getting back. Getting the students back learning in person. We are short-staffed and we have multiple teacher positions open. The consumer price index has increased for New Hampshire, as is approximately 6.9%. We appreciate the hard work of our faculty, and we need to make our compensation more in line with the rising cost of living. Year one cost items include a 3% to the salary schedule and the step. Year two is 3% increase to the salary and step, and year three is a 3% increase to the salary schedule plus a step. Additional stipends have been included that are an integral part of our athletic program and our club activities that will benefit our students, and I hope that you will support this article. Thank you.
Is there any discussion on Article 2? Any questions, comments? Mr. Bickford.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. David Bickford from New Durham. Is the 3% over the year before, or is it cumulative? So, 3% and then 3%. So it's 3% of the previous year. So the third year would be 3% over the second year, which would include the $1 million+ dollars. Okay, thank you.
Any further questions, comments, discussion? Seeing none, we'll move on to Article 3. Shall the Governor Wentworth Regional School District, if Article 2 is defeated, authorize the governing body to call one special meeting at its option to address Article 2 cost items only? Wendy, I understand you're going to address this as well?
Yes, thank you, Randy. We hope that the voters will adopt this regional contract settlement proposal for our teachers in Article 2. However, should the Article 3 fail, the adoption of Article 3 authorizes the school board to open negotiations with our teachers and bring the voters a new proposal to consider. There is no cost associated with adopting this article.
All right, this is just a housekeeping article. Is there any discussion regarding it at all? All right, seeing none, we'll move on to Article 4. Shall the Governor Wentworth Regional School District raise and appropriate as an operating budget, not including appropriations by special warrant articles and other appropriations voted separately, the amount set forth on the budget posted with the warrant or as amended by vote of the first session for the purposes set forth therein, totaling $59,810,618. Should this article be defeated, the default budget shall be $59,304,374, which is the same as last year with certain adjustments required by previous action of the Governor Wentworth Regional School District or by law, or the governing body may hold one special meeting in accordance with the provisions of RSA 40, 13, 10, and 16 to take up the issue of a revised operating budget only. Note, this warrant article, which is the operating budget, does not include appropriations requested in any of the other warrant articles. The school board recommends this appropriation. In order for it to pass or fail, will require a majority vote in March. And I understand, Jack, you're going to address this one. Your mic's not on, Jack.
I have it. There we go.
There we
We're
go.
good. I'd like to start with an overview of the ESSER funds, also known as the Elementary and Secondary School Emergency Relief Funds. They are COVID-related emergency funds from the federal government to help reopen and keep schools open across the nation. The funds must be used for activities and projects that are related to COVID and acceptable under the grant guidelines. Priorities were established for use of these funds. In order, here are the priorities we set. First, student safety and well-being. Next, addressing learning loss and improving student achievement. And third is looking at enhancing our HVA system for student health and safety and as an investment in our schools that will defray costs down the road. The funds are available in 3 phases. ESSER 1, or the Coronavirus Aid, Relief, and Economic Security Act, or CARES Act, was the first phase of the funding. These funds were to purchase personal protective equipment, plexiglass, Chromebooks, software for remote instruction and meetings, cleaning supplies, tuition for remote learning programs, and nursing services early on during the pandemic. ESSER 2, or the Coronavirus Response and Relief Supplemental Acts, Appropriations Act, CRRSA, funds were devoted to increasing the academic achievement of our students. As part of this, we are in the second of a 2-year math positions in each of the schools and a curriculum project manager at the high school. Additionally, we added social and emotional learning resources, supplemental reading materials, funds for more extensive summer programming through this past summer, and funds for after-school tutoring and transportation. Also included in this grant is work under the umbrella of the New Hampshire Learning Institute, including consultation and professional development for teachers and administrators. ESSER 3, or the American Rescue Plan, ARP, is the third phase and the largest amount of money. This is where the third priority of the school board comes into play. The ESSER 3 grant is the largest amount of the grant money at $6,582,666 and must be expended by the end of 2024. The grant guidance expressly identifies heating, ventilation, and cooling systems as a supported activity. Consideration of putting the money into our buildings will save us from incurring additional costs down the road to upgrade these systems. It is important for the public to know that the grants cannot be used to lower the tax rate. The federal government requires that in order to receive these funds, we are not disproportionately reducing state and local per-pupil costs in schools, and that the district is not disproportionately reducing the number of full-time staff per pupil in high-need classified schools. These grants are more complex than our typical grants and have a variety of requirements imposed by the federal government, including formulas to ensure we are following those guidelines. There is some flexibility during the grant period to modify the grant activities, such as if an activity results in some leftover funds, which can then be reallocated. However, any unspent funds must be returned to the federal government. Moving on to the budget. The budgeting preparation begins in October with staff members in each school providing the school principal with their budgetary needs. Each administrator submits a budget to the SAU office. The business administrator and superintendent of schools meets with each school leader to discuss their requests. If there is a large increase in an individual budget, unless there is a special circumstance or a very well justified rationale, the administrator is asked to review the budget and reduce it, while keeping priorities intact. If any increase remains that does not have a strong justification, a second cut may occur. Personnel requests are made at the same time. Requests for positions may or may not proceed to the Finance Committee, depending on the strength of the rationale outlining the need for this position. This year, we discussed reductions in positions and a few additions. Public meetings in November to discuss the budget this year were held on November 15th, 16th, and 17th. Following these meetings, additional cuts were made in order to lower the budget further. There were two other opportunities to hear about the budget. The first was at the December 5th school board meeting where the preliminary budget was presented. The second time was January 9th at the school board meeting where the budget was adopted. Although total enrollment is, for the most part, mostly stable, there are some changes in enrollment at some of our schools. Last year's total enrollment was 2,107. This year's is 2,138. The high school enrollment is lower than it was last year. However, the incoming class over the next 2 years will likely bring that number back up. Ossipee increased by 14 students, and New Durham also increased by 8 students. The largest decrease was at Carpenter, with 18 fewer students. Schools are a labor-intensive organization, and wages make up approximately 78% of the budget. The wage line does not include the Governor Wentworth collective bargaining agreement, which is addressed in Article 2 and 3. The decreases you see in these lines are the result of our administrators scouring through each school's expenses to cut back where they could. Items related to building and maintenance were also reviewed and cut back to offset the repairs and maintenance list that needs to be attended to this year in addition to the capital improvement list. The new copier bid that went into effect this past summer shows a significant savings for this line. The district signed a 3-year contribution assurance program with our property and liability insurance, which also shows us a cost savings. Many of the contracted service lines show increases, such as health services, rubbish disposal, and snow removal. These contracts are either negotiated or bid out to obtain competitive pricing. The tuition line shows an increase as well. This line is for special education students who, for various reasons, are placed out of district. They may be foster children placed in a home in another district, children who, when they moved into the district, were already in placement, or students we have needed to place. This figure is the projection for students who are either already in placement or placement is being discussed. If the placements do not occur, this money is returned to the taxpayers. Here in the second half of the general fund budget, we continue to see cuts or level funding in supplies, testing material, books, and other printed media, new furniture, and replacement furniture in order to balance out the increases in some other areas. Multiple utility lines make up a large amount of the increases in this section of the general fund. Those are identified in lines belonging to electricity, heating oil, and propane. The computer media software line shows another of the increases. As the district continues to use software of different varieties, much of this increase is due to the required updates to existing programs that keep the district safe from various harmful cyber attacks. The increase in the replacement furniture line keeps our Chromebook replacement cycle on target and also includes some teacher laptop replacements as well as replacements for smartboards. We have continued to purchase Promethean boards, which are less expensive than the smartboards and don't require additional document cameras and projectors. We continue to replace furniture as we are able to. That line is down in our proposed budget due to being able to replace 20-year-old tables at both the high school and Ossipee this past year. Over the past several years, we have retired our bonds in Ossipee, Effingham, and New Durham. Our principal or debt from the Kingswood Complex project continues to decrease. This year's reduction is $86,930. The interest increases as our principal decreases because we receive less state building aid with a reduction in our principal. The total reduction in the debt service is $5,225, or 0.14%. The revenue budget is impacted this year by the decrease in state aid we will receive in the form of state grant. The state aid is based on a complex formula that considers the number of students overall, the number of families receiving free and reduced lunch, special education membership, and other differentiated aid. The other decrease in the revenue budget is the school building aid, and that is due to the bond payment decreasing. This next chart shows the potential tax impact of the budget. The difference between the 2022-2023 tax rate and the 2023-2024 projected tax rate per thousand is as follows. Brookfield decreases by approximately 80 cents. Effingham increases by $1.99. New Durham increases by $2.05. Ossipee increases by $1.61. Tuftonboro increases by 57 cents, and Wolfeboro increases by 76 cents. Moving on to the default budget, RSA 40:13, the official ballot law, also known as SB2, determines what is to be included as part of a default budget. A default budget is the amount of the same appropriations as contained in the operating budget authorized the previous year, reduced or increased by obligations mandated by law or previously incurred, such as debt service or contracts. One-time expenditures are not included in the default budget. The purpose of presenting the default budget is to give the voters an understanding of what a budget would look like should the proposed operating budget be voted down. The default budget is $506,244 lower than the proposed budget. Aside from health insurance, the largest increase in the budget is in the utility line, oil, propane, and electricity, as well as replacement equipment and vehicles. If these monies are not spent, the money will be returned to taxpayers. However, it will be irresponsible not to include this in the budget, knowing these utility costs are so unpredictable. The difference again between the proposed budget and the default budget is $506,244. I point this out to illustrate the care that was taken in bringing a very responsible and reasonable budget to the taxpayers. And that's my presentation on the budget.
Thank you, Jack. Are there any questions, comments, discussion regarding this article? Mr. Bickford.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. I couldn't help but notice that New Durham went up $2.05, which is a significant increase, probably 20% over the last year. But I noticed over the last 20 years, I think it's since 2005 anyway, New Durham has had the greatest reduction in the number of students here, about 25%. So I see that you only got about $3 million more in revenue to offset the expenditures. But my concern is, can you explain what happened to New Durham so I can go back and help people understand why we went up so much? Thank you.
New Durham did see an increase in students.
Somebody want to address that from the board?
Last year, we did have an increase in student population in New Durham. It went from 153 to 161, so you did have an increase in students over last year. And as you know, the formula for allocating the tax rates are based on 75% student population and 25% property values. And your percentage of the total budget hasn't changed significantly, although your dollar amount has. And again, it's mostly based on student population.
Okay, Jack, thank you.
Thank you.
Any further comments, questions, discussion? Seeing none, we'll move on to Article 5, to see if the Governor Wentworth Regional School District will vote to raise and appropriate the sum of $60,000 to be added to the Turf Field Capital Reserve Fund previously established, and furthermore, to name the school board as agents to expend. This sum to come from the June 30, 2023 fund balance available for transfer on July 1, 2023. No amount is to be raised from taxation. The school board recommends this appropriation. In order for it to pass in March, it will require a majority vote. And Brody, I understand you're going to address this one.
This working? There we go. Yes, thank you, Mr. Moderator. Each year for the past several years, we have presented a Turf Field Capital Reserve warrant article. The capital reserve was established to avoid the district having the full expense of replacing the turf field all at once its useful life ended. The life expectancy of a turf field is 10 to 12 years at a cost of approximately $750,000 to replace. Currently, we have approximately $597,000 in reserve. When this fiscal year is at an end, we hope to add the $60,000 from this year's warrant article for a total of $657,000. We have been able to extend the life of the turf to 15 years through meticulous care. With the continued support of the warrant article, we should have the full cost of replacement in 2025, a year after it will be needed. I urge you to support this article. Thank you.
Thank you, Brody. Are there any questions or comments on Article 5? Seeing none, we'll move on to Article 6. Shall the Governor Wentworth Regional School District raise and appropriate the sum of $150,000 for repairs and improvements of buildings and grounds at the Kingswood Regional High School, Kingswood Regional Middle School, Lakes Region Technology Center, Kingswood Arts Center, Carpenter School, Crescent Lake School, Effingham Elementary School, New Durham School, Ossipee Central School, Tuftonboro Central School, and the SAU 49 Transportation Facility. The school board recommends this appropriation, and again, in order for it to pass in March, you'll need a majority vote. And Jim, you're going to start us off on this one?
Yes, sir. Thank you, Mr. Moderator. Each year, the board puts forth a building and maintenance warrant article for capital improvements. It has varied between $150,000 and $200,000. For the years when it has been $150,000, we invariably have projects that are not completed and need to be considered the following year. This is the case this year. This warrant article includes the funds for multi-stack compressor replacements at the high school, middle school, and the technology center, carpeting replacement in Ossipee in several classrooms, window replacement at Carpenter School and parking lot lighting replacement at the Kingswood complex. Our quotes and estimates for all of the capital improvements needed comes to well over the $150,000 request in this warrant article. As we consider priorities for this warrant article, should it pass, I'd like to take the opportunity to highlight some of the projects completed because of voter support for the warrant article last year. At Ossipee Central School, ductless split units were installed at the school in the main office, special education office, and the nurse's office in order to be able to supply air conditioning to the area. Additionally, at Ossipee, our maintenance department assisted Granite State Glass with the installation of a pass-through window to the main office. At Carpenter School, we were able to address unsafe sidewalks, and it has made a significant difference. Also at Carpenter School, in addition to addressing the sidewalks, the trim around the exterior doors of Carpenter School was replaced, which also was a much-needed fix. Here at the Kingswood Arts Center, in addition to the needs we were able to address at Ossipee and Carpenter, we were also able to have the failed heat exchanger and the multi-stack geothermal heating system replaced, as well as the failed chiller compressor. New monitors were also added to both sides of the Kingswood Arts Center lobby. At New Durham School, a VFD, or variable frequency drive, was added to modulate according to demand on the heating water pumps, conserving energy and wear and tear on the equipment. Other projects completed by our maintenance department include multiple painting projects at Tuftonboro and the middle school, installation of Promethean boards at various sites, fixing sheetrock that was damaged over time, as well as deteriorated boards. There are a few more projects taken care of by our talented and dedicated maintenance team. At Kingswood High School, they replaced several failed accessibility treads threatened here, or pictured here. I hope it is anyways, I can't see it. At New Durham School, you can see here a great example of before and after where the trim was refinished on the building and exterior doors. Big difference there. And pictured here is the new wall mat installed at the Crescent Lake Gym. We've been grateful for the consistent support of this warrant article as it allows us to take care of some significant projects as well as secondary priorities. Cannot emphasize enough how important your support of these projects is, as it allows us to be proactive in addressing the needs of our facilities before they become more urgent and costly. I urge you to vote yes on this article. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Jim. Is there any discussion, comments on Article 6? Talkative crowd today. We'll move right on to Article 7. To see if the Governor Wentworth Regional School District will vote to raise and appropriate the sum of $55,080 for the purpose of creating a new regular school year position of the School Resource Police Officer, SRO, for the Kingswood Complex. The school board recommends this appropriation. A majority vote will be required for it to pass in March. And Jack, you're going to start us off on this one?
Yes, thank you, Randy. This year, the Wolfeboro Police Department proposed a second full-time school resource officer for the Kingswood Complex. The needs for student safety inside and outside the Kingswood Complex have increased beyond the capacity of one existing full-time SRO. The Town of Wolfeboro Budget Committee previously voted to approve the warrant to cover half of the cost of this position. The Governor Wentworth Regional School District warrant article includes the remaining half of those funds needed to create this position. And I urge you to support this very, very needed position. Thank you.
Any discussion on this article? Mr. Wood?
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. My name is Steve Wood. I am the chairman of the Wolfeboro Police Commission. Just a very quick background on how we got to where we are today. Part of what the commission is tasked with doing is making sure that our police department is adequately resourced, and by that we mean manpower, equipment, and everything in between. At our monthly meetings, we receive reports, detailed reports from the chief, the captain, our investigator, or, and more importantly in this regard, the school resource officer. These reports are very detailed, and they're very telling. We've been tracking on this now for several years that the current SRO at the high school is just buried in paperwork, and there are other far more important things for her to be doing aside from the basic safety and security that's provided. There are other critical things that I'm going to have the school administrators speak to in a moment, if that's okay, Mr. Moderator. I think they can articulate that better than I can. One thing I do want to say is that if this article passes, the commission will sit down to hire an SRO for this complex. The current commission as it sits now is very critical on the type of people that we hire to be police officers in this community. We are very community police oriented. We expect people to be approachable, to be professional, and above all, to be willing to assist in any way that they possibly can. With this position, I will take it a step further because it is our responsibility to hire new police officers in our community. What I want to do this time is I want to invite the administrators of both the high school and middle school and the voc ed, if he would like to join in, and be present during this interview process, because we want them to see the type of individuals that we are interviewing, what they can bring to the position. We want them to be completely comfortable with these individuals and to feel and believe that these people are going to provide the services that's expected here on this complex. I think all of you who know Officer Devine, she has set a very high bar in terms of school resource officers. So we're going to be looking to maintain that level of service, maintain that caliber of individual. She's very professional. She's very approachable. She's a great many things. And so I want to end my time with just saying that we will also be looking for a candidate that brings counseling experience as well as some certification in that area, because that is very critical in a school resource office position. We are looking for officers, again, we look for officers for in town that will move about the community and serve our community. By that same measure, we want to have a school resource officer here that is building relationships and creating community as much as they can from a different direction, if you will. Are there any questions that I might answer before I sit?
Anybody have any questions for Steve at all?
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Steve. You want to say something, sir?
I'd like to, if I could.
Sure.
Good morning. My name is Guy Donnelly. I'm an employee of the school district. I am not a resident of the school district. I'd like to speak on behalf of this warrant article. I've been fortunate over the years as principal of Kingswood High School for my 16th year, worked with every school resource officer that we have had. Currently, we've seen an increase in the number of cases. We've heard much discussion at school board meetings recently about that. I also attribute that to the current school resource officer that we have, and Officer Mary Devine, and her ability to establish relationships with our students. Mary is trustworthy. She has an innate ability to be able to make connections with our students. She comes in the morning, 6:30, 6:45, and there are 4 or 5 girls daily waiting to welcome her to school. She sits and has lunch with our students. She speaks in our classes. She maintains the safety and security of our buildings. I have seen an increase in her time where she is involved in numerous amounts of paperwork. Not that there's an increase in cases completely on our campus, but the fact that she has established relationships with our students, that students will report things to her that may or may have not happened on our campus. So she needs support. We have roughly 1,600 people on this campus every day when school is in session for one police officer. Her ability to establish relationships is key And by taking her out of our hallways, out of our cafeteria, out of our classrooms to maintain the paperwork load that is the responsibility of an officer is demanding on her. So I support this wholeheartedly. I cannot vote on anything today, but I do have a great deal of experience of working in this school district for the majority of my career, and she is the definition of an outstanding school resource officer and needs our support. Thank you.
Thank you, Guy. Any further discussion? Christopher?
Good morning. Listening to this discussion about this SRO, it sounds like we need an administrative person more than another officer. I keep hearing this talk about being inundated with paperwork. So has it been looked at to just hire somebody to help with that so that the officer can be out on the floor?
Good question. Would somebody like to address that?
Steve?
Steve?
Unfortunately, that's a very good idea, but a lot of these cases, the information contained therein is highly classified and very private, and that's why it stays within law enforcement. I think what Principal Donnelly's trying to convey and what I was trying to convey earlier is that with an additional officer up here, that load can be spread out and allow Officer Devine and an additional SRO to do these important things. One of the things that I've spoken about with Officer Devine is some of the training sessions that she holds either at the middle school or at the high school, educational programs that she conducts. Those things have taken a back seat because of all of the preparation, the reports, all these things that are required from all the cases that are coming forward. And please understand that it was never the intent of the department or the commission to infer that there is a great deal of danger, that our schools here are dangerous. They are not. When we first started to present this, people were looking for numbers and for validation, and we gave that. And if we gave anybody the impression that we were trying to scare them into doing this, that was not what we were intending. We were trying to stress that there is a real need here for this additional position. Thank you.
Any further discussion on this article? Mr. Bickford?
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. I'm a little surprised that this came up. It didn't come, this doesn't sound like the school board requested it. It sounds like the police made a request for this. I wasn't aware of all this need, and I hope we have some documentation for that. And I hope the documentation will come forward in the future on our website as to what's going on in our schools. There was a time that we never had any police officers in our school. It's interesting to me. I followed juvenile justice quite a bit. I was instrumental in getting the 17-year-olds back into the juvenile justice system. I just reviewed legislation recently where the YDC Center, known as the Sununu Center, is going to be closed down. It's a 144-bed detention for juveniles. It's going to be closed down and replaced with a 12 to 14 or at most 18-bed facility. There's been a tremendous reduction in juvenile crime. Now, I thought maybe there's an aberration here in Wolfeboro. So I went online and looked at the Department of Justice FBI statistics. It showed 2 aggravated assaults in Wolfeboro for 2021, that is. That's their latest statistic, and 10 violent crimes. So I would like to see that data, and if you're going to do it this year, it needs to be followed through, because I'd like to think that we're going back to a time when we don't need all this. Thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
I'm Delina Bickford. I'm a voter in Wolfeboro, and this is my senior from Kingswood. And our concern about this and about funding and this information being brought up is I keep hearing from other students and kids that they're suffering from depression and other issues where they really could use a therapist. Has the board or anybody discussed spending the funds that way towards a therapist or somebody actually working with the kids individually? Our kids, as we all know, have been through a pandemic, school shootings. They can't be hidden or protected as much because of all of the multimedia stuff that's just empowered and thrown at them all at all times. The chances of other kids doing more bullying and more issues. Should we be focusing our funds on those situations? And I don't know if you want to add anything to that?
I know that therapists or counselors who not just having one for students to be able to go to, but it'd also be nice for someone to go and meet students individually and check on them daily, because I know as someone who has anxiety and depression how hard it is to personally ask for help, and how many students aren't used to being able to trust an adult, and to have an adult go forward and say, you can trust me, I want to talk to you about this kind of stuff, would be really, really awesome and help a lot of people.
All right, thank you. Is there any further discussion on Article 7? Kurt?
Hi, I'm Kurt DeVilder. I've attended the Governor Wentworth Regional School District's schools quite some time ago, and I'm a member of the community. I'm also an attorney in Wolfeboro. I've had my office here since 2010, and I deal quite regularly with the Wolfeboro Police Department. It's been my experience that the department is run in an excellent manner. The officers are highly professional, and they're very effective at what they do. And I say that as a criminal defense attorney, which may be contradictory, but it is reality. So it's my belief, through my experience in the world, that things have changed, including what's needed in our schools to keep the students safe, to maintain an orderly school day, which is in their best interests from an academic standpoint and also from a mental health standpoint, to ensure their safety and to ensure that they are educated in an efficient manner, and also that the SROs can do an efficient job. I don't think that there is anything more valuable than the safety of our students and our educators. My mother was an employee of the Governor Wentworth Regional School District for 29 years as a first grade teacher, and my sister now works for GWRSD in an administrative capacity. So I think that what we're looking at here is a minor expenditure for what could potentially have a major benefit. I do like the idea of mental health services being provided, but I do think that they're separate issues, and one should not be excluded for the purpose of bringing the other in. So I think there have been some great points brought up here today, and I am very much in support of the Wolfeboro Police, of the request to hire an additional police officer for this position.
All right, thank you, Kurt. Is there any further discussion? All right, seeing none, we'll move on to Article 8. We, the undersigned registered voters of the Governor Wentworth Regional School District, hereby petition the school board pursuant to RSA 39.3 to insert the following article on the warrant for the 2023 Governor Wentworth Regional School District meeting. To see whether the Governor Wentworth Regional School District will raise and appropriate the sum of $300,000 for the purpose of acquiring a 40-year agreement with the town of Wolfeboro for the exclusive year-round use of 2 locker rooms and 1 room with showers and bathroom facilities at the renovated Pop Whale and Ice and Arts Center. The sum would be appropriated to be paid would be $150,000 for 2023 and $150,000 in 2024. This is submitted by petition, and it will require a majority vote to either pass or fail. And I understand, Kurt, you were going to address this. You shouldn't have sat down.
You can see I could use the exercise, so it's all right. So I'm Kurt DeVilder. I am speaking in support of this, and also we're asking that for an amendment to this. So, just kind of cutting to it here, the town and the students of Kingswood High School particularly have had the benefit of the Pop Whalen Ice and Arts Center since the 80s. In the 90s, there was an addition with 2 locker rooms with showers. Previous to that, there were 4 small locker rooms without showers. One of those 1990s locker rooms was used by the Kingswood Regional High School team and the other by Brewster. Since then, there have been different iterations, JV, girls, etc. And now the high school has 2 teams, boys and girls. And so, of course, if the old facility still existed, we'd have one team using the locker room and the other not having the benefit of a dedicated locker room. So that's, of course, unfair. Now the new facility has 8 locker room spaces, which are sets of 2 that share a bath and shower facility. And if funded, the school district could customize 2 of these locker rooms and occupy them exclusively, which was always the intention of this new facility from the outset. So, of course, neither the town of Wolfeboro nor our group, the Friends of Pop Whalen, is specifically tasked with providing the school district with exclusive locker room rights or outfitting them. That's an extra cost beyond the blank boxes. And of course, there's a value to exclusivity of use. These rooms are about 1,000 square feet, a little over. And it's, I think, about $247 a square foot for the construction of the basic boxes, and customization is another $50. That's where the $300,000 comes from. The school district would have year-round exclusive use of these areas. Obviously, this benefits the hockey teams. Only the boys had a dedicated space prior, which, like I was saying, is not only unfair, but it also is not on par with what a lot of other high schools enjoy. And the sports teams whose home facility is here at the high school or the middle school have dedicated locker room space to meet and store their equipment. It would be unfair that teams using the Pop Whalen Ice and Arts Center or other students, as I'll touch on in a minute, would not have a dedicated space there. So beyond hockey, the other sports teams like the ski team might use it to shower there when they practice or meet. The baseball and softball teams, it's anticipated that they would have batting and pitching cages. They could use the facilities. The facility can be used for indoor soccer, field hockey, tennis, or other athletic pursuits. Beyond that, it is a year-round multi-use facility, so there's an occupancy permit for 900 people. So things like a graduation ceremony, technology competition, Future Farmers of America, Future Business Leaders of America, Lakes Region Technology Center, Special Olympics, or other large gathering. These rooms would provide dedicated, secure space for the school district students and faculty to utilize. So this is a multi-use situation that benefits everybody across the spectrum of the Governor Wentworth Regional School District and could be touched by all segments of the student and faculty body if they choose to use it as such. So the request is for $300,000, which is, rough numbers, less than half of 1% of the proposed budget. So this was brought by petition, and I have provided the moderator with proposed revised language of this. After this was submitted by petition, I guess it was school district council had indicated that there were some issues with the way that it had been authored initially. So the proposed amendment is to strike that first paragraph, and the last sentence of the second, which is the sum would be appropriated to be paid $150,000 in 2023 and $150,000 in 2024. So instead, the entirety would be paid, appropriated and paid in 2023. So I don't know, Randy, if you read it or if you want me to read it. Or
No, I'll summarize what Curtis just said. So for those of you that have Article 8 in front of you, the first paragraph says, "We, the undersigned," is really just procedural, so he's striking that. And then he would take out the last sentence, which starts with the sum would be, so that what will be left is the middle part, which says to see whether the Governor Wentworth Regional School District will vote to raise and appropriate the sum of $300,000 for the purpose of acquiring a 40-year agreement with the town of Wolfeboro for the exclusive year-round use of 2 locker rooms and 1 room with showers and bathroom facilities at the renovated Pop Whalen Ice and Art Center, and stop it right there. So basically taking off the first and last sentence and leaving the substance, so the substance didn't change at all. So that's been moved by Kurt. Is there a second to that? All right, it's been seconded. Now, is there any discussion? And you can...
I'd be asking you to answer this quickly. Gordon Lang from OSPI. It seems like a very attractive idea. I use Pop Whalen myself and take grandkids there. I'm curious, though, if this is a 40-year agreement, and let's say the showers and locker rooms need updating in 25 or 30 years, are the school district participating in renovations at that point? Would we be equally liable for that, or is this a town of Wolfeboro thing? How does that go?
Victor, you want to try to address that?
Victor Druin, Friends of Pop Whalen, Wolfeboro resident. So there was a draft memorandum of understanding done and presented to the school board for review and comment. So to answer your question specifically, the way it was, the intent of it is normal wear and tear. Pop Whalen, the town of Wolfeboro, would maintain the physical rink. So if the exception would be, so there's annual inspections of the facility of those given locker rooms that are essentially leased or owned or operated by the school district for your own use. If someone went in there and damaged it, then you would be responsible for the repairs. So that's the difference. But that's how it, now, keep in mind, the MOU has not been signed by either party yet. It really is contingent on a vote. So once the vote is, let's say this passes, I would expect that before the money is exchanged, that the Governor Wentworth School District and the town of Wolfeboro would, close any of those loops and make sure that that is clear, so that handoff is tidy. But that's the intent of the current MOU. Linda, is that correct from a Wolfeboro perspective? Okay, thank you.
All right, any further discussion? Scott?
Scott Lounsbury, Wolfeboro. Mr. Moderator, just a procedural question. We've had a motion and a second. Should we not vote on that before we discuss on the basis of the actual warrant article? Is my first question.
Well, I think it was just a procedural amendment. The substance has not changed at all.
Very good.
So we are discussing the amendment. We will vote on that amendment, but procedurally, it didn't change from a substantive perspective.
Thank you, sir. So it seems like it's like a 40-year lease or a 40-year rental agreement, and I'm wondering about the administration. Will there be an actual agreement where what you're saying or what Sarah's saying is actually written out? If we're going into a 40-year agreement like this, it seems to me it would be really helpful to have it actually written out such that everybody knows what the responsibilities of either party would be. That's just it's a thought.
All right, thank you. Kurt, and then Linda.
Yeah, there is a working draft memorandum of understanding that's been circulated, and that would all be laid out. And to go back to Gordon's point as well, those types of things are laid out. So if it's I don't know what it would be a good example, but if a student takes a hockey stick and intentionally breaks a shower head off, then, of course, that's the district's responsibility to repair the damage done by its user. If the shower control wears out over time, then I think that might be different because that's a wear and tear type of issue. I think that kind of answers your question. And yes, there's a memorandum of understanding that it would be negotiated between the district's council and the town, and that would, it would include whatever those parties deem appropriate and necessary to finalizing the terms of their agreement, I guess is the best way I can understand it.
All right, Linda, you wanted to address this?
Linda Murray, Wolfeboro. The Wolfeboro Board of Selectmen is now getting into memorandums of understanding in any kind of relationship. One of the things we realize 10 years from now, none of us may be involved. When it's written on paper, we've all agreed on it. Somebody 10, 15, 20 years can take that same agreement and know exactly what we've done. So I would expect us to be able to come to an understanding on the MOU and get everything in it we need as the town and the school district and get it in writing and signed if this thing passes.
For those of you who don't know, Linda is one of the selectmen in Wolfeboro as well. Kurt?
I guess I just want to clarify. I think what we're voting on here today is the amendment, not whether we like this idea or not. It's
Correct.
just the amendment so that we can get this into a proper format for the voters to give the thumbs up or down for.
And that's an excellent point, and we do have another month now to flush out some of those details. So is there any further discussion on the proposed amendment? All right, seeing none, all those in favor of that amendment, please say aye. Aye. All those opposed? No. I think the ayes have it. Is there any further discussion on Article 8 as amended? Seeing none? Oh, Mr. Bickford.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. I see that this article is the only one that has no recommendation by the school board. After this vote has been taken, or just taken, will the school board be taking a vote to whether to recommend it or not recommend it? And if you do, I'd like to have a roll call vote.
Jack? Well, he's filling with it. I believe there will be a meeting today. After our meeting, we'll adjourn our meeting. My understanding is going to be about a 10-minute break, and that the school board is then going to meet and discuss whether they'll recommend or not recommend this. So you just hang around and you'll be able to input it. Is that correct, Jack?
Yeah, that's exactly correct. After the deliberative session is adjourned, the school board meeting will still be in session. We'll ask for a short break, and then we'll come back and we'll discuss this article and vote to recommend or not recommend. So that will be on the official ballot to either recommend or not recommend based on the school board vote at the end of this session.
Okay.
Thank you.
Any further comments or questions on this? All right, moving on to our final article, Article 9. And there is one bit of new business, by the way, even though this is the final substantive article. Article 9. By petition of 50 or more eligible voters of the Governor Wentworth Regional School District to see if the district will vote to prohibit expending district funds for the purpose of taking action towards the banning of books or any other content from the Governor Wentworth Regional School District libraries, thereby guaranteeing our citizens their First Amendment rights and their rights under the New Hampshire Constitution, Article 22, free speech, liberty of press. Additionally, to see if the voters will direct the Governor Wentworth Regional School District Board to urge the New Hampshire General Court to stop all actions, including House and Senate bills, infringing upon our First Amendment rights as explained in the 1939 Library Bill of Rights, the 1953 Freedom to Read Statement, and 1999 Libraries and American Value. The record of this vote approving this article shall be transmitted by written notice from the Governor Wentworth Regional School District Board to our New Hampshire State Legislatures, our current Carroll County Attorney, our Stratford County Attorney, the New Hampshire Education Committee, and the Commissioner of Education, Frank Edelblatt, informing them of the vote of the Governor Wentworth Regional School District on March 14, 2023. District-wide elections within 30 days. This is a special warrant article, has been proposed by petition, and I understand Bobby Budman will be addressing this first before we open it up. So, Bobby, you're up.
Thank you. Bobby Budman, resident of the district. Sadly, this petition warrant article had to be proposed because currently, even though we have settled that our children have the right to walk in a library and read a book, our state legislature is proposing bills to ban books and The language in it, right now we have before our State House, House Bill 514, which is relative to the dissemination of obscene materials by schools and institutions of higher learning. As we all know, over the last couple of years, our schools have been subjected to a bill that included divisive concepts, which has kept our teachers from being able to teach certain texts, things like even Frederick Douglass and some of his words saying that maybe white people may have oppressed other groups. Currently, our school district has actually received a right to know, I think it was on 93 books, over obscene materials that are in our libraries. Of these 93 books, I went through and I looked at them, and almost 100% of them were written by a person of color or someone in the LGBTQ community. Our state law, our RSA 186, Chapter 11, indicates that any parent has the right to keep their own child from any materials. So we already have in place that parents have rights. So what this bill does is it just says, you don't have the right to tell my child my child can't read a book from the library. Thank you.
Thank you, Bobby. Is there any questions, comments, discussion? Seeing none, then that will appear on the ballot. And Jack, I understand you wanted to say a few words before we entertain a motion to adjourn.
Thank you very much. Wendy, would you come up here, please? Wendy has served on the board for almost 10 years. She served her first three-year term when she was elected in 2009, served a one-year term until 2023, and has served from 2017 until now. Wendy's term will end next month, and we are grateful for her dedicated service to the board and all of her support as a parent and involved community member. Wendy, your strong voice and advocacy will be sorely missed.
Well,
thank you for everything.
Thank you so much.
And on behalf of the board, thank you.
Thank you so much.
And with that, I would entertain a motion to adjourn. Been so moved by Mr. Woods. Or a second? All those in favor of adjourning the meeting, please say aye. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. We're adjourned. And again, we'll have about a 10-minute break, and then the school board will discuss its recommendations on the article.
Okay, we're back in session now to discuss the revised Pop Whalen petition warrant article, whether the board wants to take a position of recommending, not recommending, or doing nothing. So I would open the floor for a discussion for any board member that would like to speak. Yes. You can certainly make a motion, and then we'll discuss if we have a second. Hang on a minute. Stephanie's going to get a microphone. When the light goes on, you should be all set.
Hello?
There you go.
Okay. I would like to make a motion to not recommend the Pop Whalen warrant article.
What's that?
I made the motion, Wendy seconded it.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded that the board not recommend the Pop Whalen warrant article as amended, correct? Okay, now we'll open for discussion. Good, Jim?
Okay, Okay, my observation is just a technical one. Typically, we don't make negative motions, so it would probably be more appropriate to move to endorse it and let people vote against it.
No.
Just an idea, that's all, just my observation.
Here, Brody?
I was just going to say, usually the motion. Is this working? Usually the motion, Jim, would always be to motion not to recommend, and then you vote against recommending because that's what's going to appear on the ballot.
Right.
So usually, I know the town of Wolfeboro will first vote to put a warrant on the ballot, and then they vote on whether or not to, how they're going to recommend it. So usually there's a two-step process. That's at least my understanding, but I guess different boards have different procedures too.
I think the motion could be either direction, to recommend and vote against, or to not recommend and vote for that particular article. I think we can do it either direction. I think the outcome will be the same one way or the other. So if we want to leave the motion as it is, we can vote on it. And if it's voted in the positive, we would not recommend the article. If it's voted down, then we would recommend the article. So again, either way, if we leave it that way, we can do that. Any discussion?
I'll
Make sure that we are in public
It's-
session, so make sure
Yeah.
discussion can be heard.
No, I think, like you said, Jack, the effect is the same. The outcome is the same. So I don't think it really matters. But I made the motion to not recommend it because the Friends of Pop Whalen, while I respect what they're doing, they weren't able to fundraise the amount that they wanted to, and I don't feel that it's fair to put the gap in their fundraising onto the taxpayers of this district. And additionally, this warrant article will not in any way affect the function of the boys and girls ice hockey program. That will remain, and they will have access to locker rooms for every game. So, for those reasons.
Thank you. That is correct. The hockey program will continue. The big change, if this is not approved by the taxpayers, is that obviously the equipment will not be left in the locker rooms, and we would not have exclusive use of those locker rooms other times during the year. That's really the big difference between the approving and not approving by the taxpayers.
Jack, it's Wendy. I just, to understand my support on the position of seconding the motion from Stephanie is, for me personally, looking at the fiduciary responsibility of sitting here on the board, it's not a Governor Wentworth Regional School District property. It's a town-owned Wolfeboro property, and so they can do with it as what they can over time. And I would feel differently if it was actually a Governor Wentworth Regional School District facility. As I feel of it now, Governor Wentworth subsidizes the NIC because we have our track and field there, we have our soccer fields there. So the towns are also contributing to the excellent condition of the NIC. So the towns are already subsidizing the NIC because we have facilities there. So we're already paying for something in the town of Wolfeboro. And if you look at it, we are a cooperative district, and we're not subsidizing any other sort of facility in any of the other sending towns. And I recognize this is our campus, and I am proud to say that this is our campus here in Wolfeboro, but we're not doing that to other towns, and that's the reason why I vote not to support this.
Brody?
I sympathize with some of the previous points. I think the situation with the NIC is much different because our track team, which is the only one that uses there, and the only access to facilities is just bathrooms and literally the gated track area. We do put a lot of wear and tear there, and we give money to a nonprofit that runs the NIC to defray the amount of costs that we incur onto the NIC for them to have to replace the track, you know, and because we wear down the useful life of the track at a faster rate. So this is a town of Wolfeboro property, and that's part of the issue why I have with funding this. I think the town of Wolfeboro should take the full responsibility over it. And there's just too many open-ended questions, though. Too many open-ended questions. I think the town of Wolfeboro finally is getting to the point where they're setting a rental rate, and we wanted to see that early on. We wanted to have an MOU that was draft preliminary, ready to sign if this had passed, and currently the rest of the board is still not comfortable with the current draft MOU. There was a number of things that we requested from the town of Wolfeboro, and I can't list them all because there are too many to list, that our chair and our superintendent requested that never got back to this board. And I think it's about making an informed decision about what the best bang for the buck is for the taxpayers. I'd love to be able to tell every taxpayer in this district the originally asked for $250,000 or now the currently asked for $300,000 is the best bang for our buck. But at this point, the information isn't all there. I will say, however, I feel very bad for the Friends of Pop Whalen because I feel as if there have been many things told to them and many assumptions made that ended up being changed without their knowledge, without consulting them fully, that we should have brought them in earlier on school board meetings to kind of discuss this more in depth. And we did discuss the MOU, but maybe to have a more formal discussion just on how the project is looking in and of itself and what exactly, a whole rundown, maybe even a presentation for the board. And so a lot of this is a lack of communication on us and the town of Wolfeboro. And I feel bad for the Friends of Pop Whalen because they've done, again, amazing work. I've always been very vocal, whether it's on Facebook and our community pages, publicly or in the newspaper about supporting the Pop Whalen project, the original one. I just never thought that this board would have to go back to Wolfeboro taxpayers and all the taxpayers in the school district and ask for more funding. And to do that, there's just a number of things that I would need to feel comfortable making that request, and they currently have not been produced. And again, it's not on the Friends of Pop Whalen. In my personal opinion, it's on the town of Wolfeboro, and it's on us to be proactive and to keep prodding the town of Wolfeboro for some of that information. And so at this point, I wish we had that information. I wish I could sit here and support this, but sadly at this point I cannot.
Any other board member comments? Yes.
Hi, I'm Tom Bickford, and I'm a member at large, so I feel like, I do represent the towns outside of Wolfeboro. And when I look at the Pop Whalen, I have to agree with Brody. Kudos to the Friends of Pop Whalen. You've worked very hard. It sounds like there was misinformation going back and forth, and that stinks. But this isn't the time with inflation. Food's gone up, gasoline's gone up, everything's gone up. And in Wolfeboro itself, we've had our market burned down, and that was 75 jobs, I believe. And that has a ripple effect. So mainly my objection is it's not the right time, given the economics of it. The other issue I have is that we don't have an MOU not in place. And in negotiating MOUs, both sides should have an equal standing. But once we turn over $300,000, we don't have much leverage after that. Yeah, everything's in the other court, and we're at the mercy of the other court. I understand the town of Wolfeboro and the Friends will negotiate in good faith, but it's still, I am very concerned about giving up that much leverage in negotiations. And that's why I will vote against the article.
Anyone else? Yeah, go ahead, Brody.
I just want to clarify one thing, Tom, and it might seem trivial, but I think it's important that the public and the entire board kind of just hear it, is that even if we're from a specific town, so if we're the member from New Durham like Stephanie, or the member from Ospey like Dana, or the member from Brookfield like Dr. Jim, or Charlene's from Wolfeboro, and she's a designated member from Wolfeboro. Each 6 towns has a designated member, and then there are 3 that can be from at large. But in our ethics policy and the way the state RSA is written, and the way our cooperative school board is set up, is we equally represent all 6 towns, and we're elected from all 6 towns. And so it's important that this board represent all 6 towns. And if this, that's just important for everyone to know, is that we don't represent any specific town. We cannot prioritize any specific town. We cannot prioritize any specific town's interest over the other towns. Not that that's not what's happening today necessarily, but I just want everyone to be aware of that we're responsible for all 6 towns and every school within every town, and every student that's educated, and every family and every taxpayer, and have to consider all their interests equally and weigh them equally. So I take that very seriously, and I know every other board member does too. So just so everyone's aware.
Yes, Jim.
Oh, is it working? It is working. Okay, thank you. I'll just say I pretty much support those statements that have been made by Brody and by Mr. Bickford. I do want to observe, I think this project has merit, but I think it's half-baked in terms of, the MOU process. And, I've been, as part of the Building and Maintenance Committee, I've been involved in having a site visit, which was great to see, and also been involved in all of the discussions regarding the MOU, and to say that it has had forward progress would be overly generous. I wouldn't buy a car based on the sort of contractual understandings that we have right now. And that's not to say that the intentions are bad. I think all parties involved have good intentions, but I don't understand how we cannot dot the I's and cross the T's before we ask our taxpayers to come up with $300,000. Now, to be clear, what we're voting on is whether this board recommends it or not. The warrant article will still be out there. The voters can decide, and if they decide that, yeah, we want this, well, then, that will be what will happen, I guess. We'll continue on. But I think right now it's there are too many gaps for me personally to come out and say, yeah, we should just charge right ahead with this. And it's unfortunate because I think it is a great idea to have this for our students and for our community.
Thank you, Jim. Anyone, any other conversations? Any other questions? Okay. Well, we're not doing public input at this point, Victor. Sorry about that. Okay. So, seeing no other board members want to speak at this point, I do think if the voters of the district do support this, the money would be available, obviously, to pay this bill. The interesting thing is I believe that the article would pay, if it passed, requires us to pay the money in 2023, which would be fine. We'd have to pay it before December 31st of 2023, which would be part of the new budget going forward from July 1st. So that being said, the concern that I have, if a valid MOU is not agreed upon between now and we'd have to get some legal opinion on this probably. If we cannot come up with a valid MOU between now and December 31st, we certainly wouldn't want to spend the money if a valid MOU is not appropriate for the school board or the town of Wolfeboro to sign. So, okay, we're finished, I think, with discussion on this. I'd ask for a roll call vote if I can see everybody down the end of the table. The motion on the floor is to not recommend the amended article for $300,000 for the Pop Whalen Arena. Correct? Okay, I'll take a roll call vote, and again, if you vote in the affirmative, it will be put on the ballot not to recommend the article as written. Okay? All right, Stephanie.
Yes.
Dana.
Yes.
Tom.
Yes.
Wendy.
Yes.
Dr. Jim.
Yes.
Brody.
Regretfully, yes.
Charlene.
Yes.
Jim Pittman.
Yes.
And Chair will vote yes as well. So it's a unanimous vote to not recommend this article at this time. Again, I feel bad. I do feel bad. I think the facility is a terrific facility, but there's too many open-ended pieces right now to this process. All right. At this point, that's all I think we have for our school board meeting. I would ask for a motion to adjourn, and I'll take a roll call vote on that as well. Moved by Brody, seconded by Dr. Jim. Okay, all those in favor of adjourning our meeting, Stephanie? Yes. Dana?
Yes.
Tom?
Yes.
Wendy?
Yes.
Dr. Jim?
Yes.
Brody? Yes. Charlene? Yes. Jim Pittman? Yes. Chair votes aye as well. We are adjourned. Thank you.